This is the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
Sam, it's Friday. This Friday is extra special. You know why it's extra special, Sam?
Because it still feels like it's summer out.
It's true. It really does. I mean, you look outside, except for exactly the second because it's a little gray and dark and it's like 40 outside. But yesterday it was like 70.
And the day before that it was like 70. But
I don't know what's going on. I feel like I'm back in Florida, Sam. I'm a little confused on why this weather is the way it is.
It's Wisconsin. It could snow tomorrow.
And that's what I was hearing because I was at a friend's house last night and they were saying that this is going to be one of the warmer winters we've ever had. And I'm like, well, I've heard it's going to be one of the coldest winters they have. And my wife is like, well, it's Wisconsin, so it's probably going to be both. So I was like, fair enough. Yeah, I don't know what to expect.
Why is it special?
Because we're here, Sam.
Oh.
We're here. We're here together. We're talking about sports. We're going to be looking at the Milwaukee Bucks a little bit today. We're going to be talking about the college football playoff standings. They have been officially released as well. I know some folks are excited about the standings. Other people are like, how in God's great green earth is Ohio State number 3 and not higher? We're going to get into all of that in just a little bit. But before we do any of that, we want to take a moment to remind all of you that you can get us right here on Spreaker.com from 7 to 8 a.m. Central live. You can also get us on Periscope. What's up, guys, on there watching us on Periscope? You can also get us on Sports Radio America from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time on Live 365 and TuneIn. And you can get us on demand on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com.
And on social media, you can find us on Facebook at The BG Sports Show. We are on Instagram at BG Sports Show. We are on Twitter at BG Sports Show. Baxter's at Baxter Colburn. And I am at Samuel_Wallace2. Or feel free to shoot us an email at any time at bgsportsshow@gmail.com.
Yes, indeed. We love hearing from all of you wonderful listeners. You help make the show better, and you make it interesting for Sam and I. And that's why we come to work every morning, so that way we can talk to all of you wonderful people. All right, well, before we get to college football, let's start with the professionals that are actually getting paid to play, Sam. Although last night I feel like they didn't pay the Browns players enough money to show up last night. The Cleveland Browns in the Battle of Ohio took on the undefeated Cincinnati Bengals, and Cincinnati, Andy Dalton's hair, paving a way. They found a way to win again, 31-10 last night. Andy Dalton going for 234 yards and 3 touchdowns. He threw 130. He had a 139 passer rating. It looked great from Andy Dalton last night.
Yeah, the Bengals did exactly what they needed to do. This was, I think, one of the few wins by an undefeated team that we've seen thus far that was as convincing as we felt it should have been.
Absolutely.
They held the Browns scoreless in the second half, held them to a field goal, 1 touchdown in the second quarter, and actually, to the Browns' credit, Johnny Manziel executed the longest scoring drive that the Browns have had this season.
92 yards.
Yeah, it was great to see him step up, work the ball, move down the field, and score a touchdown on a pass to Duke Johnson. But that was basically it. Cincinnati just dominated that game.
Exactly, yeah. We see somebody here on Periscope saying, Unk43 says they need to let Johnny play his game, and he had a great first half. It's true he did. I was getting notifications to my phone saying that Manziel looked like a fairly good quarterback last night, and then I looked at the stats after the game. I was like, 15 for 33. He did throw a touchdown, but he only threw for 168 yards. He had moments last night where he looked like a good quarterback, but I hope that Cleveland doesn't realize that, oh, wow, we lost to the undefeated Bengals. Sorry, Johnny, you're done. When Josh McCown is healthy again, all right, Josh, come on back in.
Considering the Browns are 2-7, I don't think it hurts to have Manziel just finish the year. Just get the kid some experience.
Exactly.
Don't pull him for a week, start him for a week. That's not good for the team, well, first of all.
Like the worst love-hate relationship ever.
It's true. And actually, too, the gentleman on Periscope who pointed this out, he talked about how Manziel looked good in the first half. He did. He had 6 different receivers on that big opening drive. And he was moving the chains with his feet when he needed to, and he wasn't, there was some some opportunities that he had that he probably missed. He only really went to one check down, to one option, maybe second. Then he's starting to take off a little bit, but he was growing more comfortable, which was really nice to see.
Absolutely, and you mentioned him finding a bunch of different receivers last night. I mean, Duke Johnson, among others, was one of the guys that saw 2 touchdown. Oh, he had 1 touchdown reception last night. He had 2 catches. And then everybody else just kind of fell into order after that. I mean, Travis Benjamin had 3 catches. Isaiah Crowell had 3 receptions. Dwayne Bowe had 3 catches. I didn't even realize that Dwayne Bowe was on the Browns again.
Yeah, I know. It was nice to see Dwayne Bowe finally have some catches. But again, for as well as he spread the ball around, you could tell he was really looking for his tight end, Gary Barnidge, who has been going off in recent weeks, but he only completed 2 passes to him and targeted him 7 times. That was a little upsetting to see.
That was, yep. And we had somebody mention on Periscope as well, saying that Johnny's a mobile quarterback, and Cleveland's trying to turn him into more of a pocket quarterback. And there needs to be a fine line between both. Yeah. But even from a rushing perspective, Johnny Manziel, 4 rushes last night for 31 yards. That's not awful. But when you are talking about a guy that made his living basically in college football for running the ball,
just running for his life,
and he hasn't been able to do that since coming to the NFL. Which I get it, guys in the NFL are bigger, faster, stronger, etc. Yeah. But even still, he's still a very athletic guy.
Exactly, and it was good to see him, like I said, sustain some drives, especially in the first half, and keep the chains moving with his feet when the pocket started to collapse around him. And like we said, he's definitely athletic enough to step up and pick up a first down if he needs to.
Absolutely. Well, let's flip over on the other side, looking at Cincinnati here last night. We mentioned Andy Dalton briefly. Only sacked twice last night. He threw 3 touchdowns, all of them to his tight end, Tyler Eifert. If you are a owner of Tyler Eifert, or even an Andy Dalton owner as well in fantasy, I'm sure you were thrilled by that last night. Tyler Eifert is now the leading person in the NFL in receptions for touchdowns. He's got 9 on the season now.
It's crazy.
It's kind of crazy to think that a tight end that's not named Rob Gronkowski is leading the NFL, but because of that performance, that might raise some questions now in terms of saying, well, actually, this Bengals team looks like it might be better than folks may have thought they were. Are you actually finally starting to buy into what this undefeated Cincinnati Bengals team is selling, Sam?
I'm definitely starting to buy in right now. I know we've said Andy Dalton, great regular season player, but as soon as the weather gets cold, as soon as December, January rolls around, he's going to fold, things like that. But after what I've seen last night, they are so balanced. So balanced. They had rushed for 152 yards as a team, kind of split between their 2 feature backs, and Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill. 13 and 15 carries respectively last night. The only touchdown on the ground came from Mohamed Sanu, actually a wide receiver.
Which is great.
They drew up 1 run play for him, and he cashed it in for a touchdown for 25 yards out. But other than that, Andy Dalton was able to spread the ball around, hit a lot of different receivers, and just really relied on his favorite red zone target in Tyler Eifert.
Yep, and you talk about hitting, too. Andy Dalton was actually one of the lead blockers on that rushing play for Mohamed Sanu. He was out in front making sure that his man got to the end zone. And I think Mohamed Sanu as a whole, though, is just a very underrated guy. Unk43 on Periscope says the Bengals deserve this moment in the spotlight. It's been a long time coming. I agree with that. I
definitely agree with that.
When you're in the AFC and Tom Brady and Peyton Manning are still playing, no matter how the Bengals could go 16-0, but if the Patriots have a good season, I feel like the Bengals would still get overshadowed.
Exactly.
Because of Tom Brady and because of Peyton Manning.
It's too bad, really. I know there was some joking around about the Bengals saying, hey, this is the best start in franchise history. It's like, well, it's the Bengals franchise we're talking about, so it's
true.
Nothing to really be excited about. But, yeah, that's going to be the question. How well can they handle a playoff contender? Somebody on Periscope just asked. We will definitely see. That's always kind of been the downfall of Andy Dalton.
It's true.
Thus far in his career, can he sustain this regular season pace into the playoffs?
Up to this point, no. The answer is always no. I mean, it's great that the Bengals have made the playoffs the last 4 years and that Marvin Lewis has been with the team for 13 years. But can anybody honestly say that they would bet the house on Cincinnati even winning their opening game in the playoffs? No offense to whoever they might play, whether that might be maybe an Oakland or a lower tier AFC team that sneaks in. Or, well, at this point, if the playoffs were to start today, Cincinnati doesn't get the bye.
No.
They're that 3rd team overall. I don't even know if I like them going forward. I'd like to say yes, be like, well, look, they look like a complete team.
Yes, they do.
They're playing outside their mind with how well Andy Dalton is playing, but something about that playoff, for some reason, just completely skews Andy Dalton's head and his thinking.
Hopefully this will be the year that changes. I think this is the best chance they've had. Well, the numbers don't lie. They're 8-0. But apart from that, I think this is the best year they've had, and they've looked the best to try and get over that hump in the playoffs.
And now one thing I want to make mention of too, Sam, is you take away Tyler Eifert from this Bengals offense, A.J. Green is not performing at a high level. Marvin Jones isn't performing at a high level. Mohamed Sanu is not performing at a high level. Giovanni and even Jeremy Hill, 5 out of their 6 guys that account for a majority of their offense are not performing at a high level. It's all coming from Tyler Eifert right now. I almost feel like the Bengals have inherited the Patriots syndrome where it goes through the tight end right now.
True, and I guess that's not a bad thing. We've seen a lot of successful NFL teams over the years revolve their offense around the tight end. Julius Thomas in Denver with Peyton Manning, Jimmy Graham in New Orleans with Drew Brees, Rob Gronkowski right now up in New England. That's not a bad way, I feel, to run an offense. I mean, you look at Denver, yeah, they have Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders. They got a good core of wide receivers. But down in New Orleans, when they used to run the offense through Jimmy Graham, their wide receiving core was average at best, I feel.
It was. Marcus Colston never performed at a high level.
Yeah, they were good wide receivers and things like that, but I would never consider them to be elite. But the elite focal point of their offense was Gronkowski. It was Jimmy Graham. And then you go up to New England. Yes, Julian Edelman, he's a fantastic slot receiver. He's a monster in PPR fantasy leagues.
Yeah.
But
no kidding.
He's really their best option at wideout. Brandon LaFell, Danny Amendola. Again, I wouldn't consider them to be top-tier wide receivers.
They're reliable, but not top tier.
So I guess kind of along that thread, I feel the Bengals are, like you said, fitting into that mold where it's going to be okay for them, I feel, if they revolve their offense around Tyler Eifert and have enough of a supporting cast.
Yep, I agree with you on that one. One mention of the Bengals defense last night. Two guys that we needed to stop by. Thank you for watching Encore 3 on Periscope. Appreciate your comments and insight as well today. Hope to see you back on the program going forward. One thing I want to make mention of as well last night is Geno Adkins and Carlos Dunlap accounted for the 3 sacks for the Bengals defense. Two guys that when you think of the Bengals defense, those are the two guys that come to mind right away. Geno Adkins, a fantastic defensive lineman. Carlos Dunlap, very versatile. Done a great job of getting all over the place. And I think this is another great performance from the Bengals as we've seen them perform very well over the season so far. So with that being said, Sam, we are going to jump to a break. Still a lot more to get to here on the BG Sports Show. We've got to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to talk about the college football playoffs. And later on in the show, for all of you soccer lovers, Simon Mitchell, straight from England, will be on the phone to chat with us about the Champions League and all the crazy action that's been taking place over there. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the BG Sports Show. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I am Bax.
And this is Sam.
All right, Sam. It is time to venture over to the baller world of the NBA. For 3, Steph Curry lighting things up. And all kinds of other things. Porzingis is doing weird things out in New York. I don't even know what to give.
Crazy things are happening.
I don't know what to
Quick side note.
Please.
With Steph Curry, just the ridiculous things that he's been doing, and it's only, we're a week into the season, a little bit more, things like that. There was a quick video I saw on ESPN about him before he really came out of the tunnel to do his pregame warm-up. So he was it was from the baseline extended back into the stadium a little bit. He was down there kind of jumping around in the tunnel, kind of getting himself excited.
Sure.
Somebody, one of the ushers from the game, rolled him a ball. He picked it up, just tossed it up from the tunnel out onto the court, drained it. And they're like, all right, now he's ready to go do his warm-up. So then he just jogged out onto the court and just does what Steph Curry does.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I've seen some of the highlights of him through the first 5 games of the season, and it's just ridiculous what he's done
The
already.
man can do no wrong.
He can't. I mean, it looks like he's got that touch of gold where no matter where he is on the court. Well, aside from that, though, did you see the video of Dwayne Wade last night throw up that shot? Oh, my goodness. And just the way he just looked on the middle of the court, I'm like, there's Dwayne Wade. I was like, what a guy. It was a fantastic video.
That was cool.
If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It was just at the end of like the half, I think.
Yeah, it was at the end of the second quarter.
Yeah, we just threw it up past midcourt and just boom, drained it.
3/4 court shot.
Yeah, even people from the other team were like, whoa. I was like, yep.
D. Wade still got it.
He does. Represent the great Marquette University, Dwayne Wade. All right, well, Sam, we're checking in with the Milwaukee Bucks right now. They come in to at this present date, they come in at 2-3. They do have a game this evening against the New York Knicks. They look to go back to 500, although the Knicks did deal them their first loss of the season back on October the 28th. But in short, though, looking at this Bucks team, Jabari Parker is finally back for the squad. They look like they kind of have things put back together. That first few games of the season, it's always kind of a feeling out period for every team, trying to see what's going to happen.
Especially for the Bucks, it feels like.
It does, yep, exactly. And they've been dealing with a few injuries also right off the bat. Michael Carter-Williams has been dealing with a sore ankle injury. John Henson has had a left Achilles injury. And O.J. Mayo's got a right hamstring strain. So you look at those three guys alone, that's three of their starting guys on the court.
Yeah, not a great way to kind of limp into the beginning of the year here and getting banged up early, but I think they'll be okay.
Yes, no, I agree with you on that one. Looking at their ball game that they played just a few nights ago against the Philadelphia 76ers, they won 91-87. That was the return of Jabari Parker. He's back, Sam. He is back and slightly better than
2
ever.
points that he scored.
Yeah, hey, that's enough to get the masses excited, right? Yeah, 2 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. He only played 16 minutes. I don't blame Jason Kidd for playing him for just a short amount of time. If I came back from as serious an injury as Jabari Parker had and just were to like, all right, you're good, go. Like, that would be a terrible decision.
Yeah, you might see Jabari Parker kind of turn into the next Derrick Rose where they're always trying to bring him back from injury and he gets hurt again.
Don't do that.
I do like what Jason Kidd is doing and is saying, hey, it's a long season. It's not super long. I know you want to get back. I'm sure, Jason Kidd, being a former player, can definitely understand the fire, the intensity that Jabari has wanting to come back and being like, look, trust me, be patient.
Exactly. Well, I want to make mention, too, of not only Jabari Parker, but you want to take a look at someone that's really stepped up, that's new to the team. You talk about Greg Monroe, their big offseason signing. Greg Monroe's numbers through the first 5 games of the year, he scored 22 points in opening night, then he followed it up with 22 again. He hit 14 against Toronto, 23 against Brooklyn, and then 18 against Philadelphia. But his rebounds are what is getting me.
Have been just off the charts.
14, 5, 6, 13, and 8. He looks like one of the best players in the NBA right now. And he's playing at such a high level, which is why Milwaukee is starting to come back together.
It's nice to see the Bucks have, well, we'll see. It's only through 5 games, so I hesitate to call it consistent at this point, but a consistent production out of a big man down low.
Well, you want to know who's been really consistent, though, speaking of a big man, has been Giannis. The Greek Freak. He's looked fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, he's scored every game this season except for one. He didn't play the opening night, but he scored 27 points, 20 points, 21 points, and then 17 points.
Yeah, he's
talk about consistency.
He's leading the team in 21 points a game right now, and he's actually leading the team in field goal percentage at just under 60%, which is awesome for an individual.
Huge. That is very, very big, yeah. Another guy to make mention of, Chris Middleton. We talked about him a little bit early in the year, coming into the season as well. He's looking fairly good so far this season. I mean, he's gotten 4 out of the 5 games into double digits. He's broken the 20-point barrier once, as he did against Philadelphia. 3 rebounds. He's averaging about 34, 35 minutes a game right now, looking like he's going to be on the court for a majority of the game and performing at a high level.
It's nice to see with the Bucks too, is they don't have currently just a standout stud, which I think is good for them because they're so young, and I think they're going to build just some great chemistry as far as a team is concerned. And looking at their team stats overall, they don't really jump off the charts until you get down to the assists per game. Through the first 5 games, for them, they rank 4th in the NBA in assists at almost 24 assists per game, which for me just speaks volumes to the unselfish play that Jason Kidd is really starting to develop in his players, and how, like we've seen it in the scoring, a lot of guys are getting to the bucket, which is great.
That is huge, and I think, like you mentioned, if you can have a team that's averaging 24 assists a game, that does mean that I don't think you necessarily need one big star. I mean, that's great that Jabari Parker could very well be that big star once he's officially healthy, but because you've got so many mid to high level guys on your team that are not elite, but you've got those mid to high level guys on your team that you can spread the ball over the place and say, hey, MCW, go drain this three. John Henson, go do this. Go get Giannis. Go find Greg Monroe under the basket. You have all these different opportunities and different guys that can step up. That's the making of a team that could possibly make a run in the playoffs.
Absolutely. When you're spreading the ball around like that, when you have just some mismatches, like, what am I trying to say?
I don't know.
Matchup mismatches.
There you go. I was like, you said matchups and misses, and I wasn't sure where you were headed. You're fine.
Matchup mismatches for the opposing defense. Guys like Giannis, they're so hard to guard because they can spread the floor, they can spread it out, and they're so athletic, and they can just run the court on you. So.
Exactly, yeah. And I think one thing about Giannis, too, is that he might not have you on the overall girth of his body, but he's just big. He's just so long.
He's very athletic.
He's very athletic, and he's not afraid to sacrifice his body to get to the basket. Yep. And we've seen that with some fantastic highlight reel slam dunks from him. It's been some good shooting overall. He's been very unselfish with the ball, too. Just a great performance from them. So the Bucks, they sit in last place in the Central. Only 5 games in, Sam. Not really worried. I mean, you look at their division as a whole, though. The Pacers are 2-3. The Chicago Bulls are 4-2, thanks to Derrick Rose just going lights out last night, dropping 29 points last night.
Against the Thunder.
Which is a huge game for him to step up in. Detroit is 3-1, and then Cleveland is 4-1. This is already going to be a hard division no matter what, no matter which way you cut it for the Bucks. But with the way the new playoff standings are working too, where just the top 8 records in basketball will get out into the playoffs for each conference. Milwaukee just needs to make sure that they maintain consistency. Which
if they can put themselves
in
the mix, they'll be okay.
Yes, yep, I agree with you on that one. Looking at the NBA as a whole, Golden State is 5-0, and Toronto is 5-0. The only 2 undefeated teams left in the NBA right now. There's a few one-loss teams, but aside from that, though, I'm going to just ask this as a broad question. We don't have to dive into it too big. But with what the Golden State Warriors have at their disposal this year, Sam, do you feel that they can repeat again?
Oh, absolutely. They're so versatile. They're such a good offensive and defensive squad. And not even to remotely compare them to the Milwaukee Bucks, but since we were talking about it, just how they play unselfishly. Yeah, Steph Curry's the focal point, and everyone knows that, and he knows that. But at the same time, he's not afraid, and he's not too prideful to dish off the ball to his teammates. He's fantastic when he gets into the lane and is able to swing something behind his back, over his head, no-look passes to his guys underneath. So.
Exactly, yeah. And you talk about this team, the least amount of points they've scored in a game this year, Sam, 111.
Is the least amount.
The least amount of points. The most they've scored is 134. The most points they've allowed on defense is 120. The least amount they've allowed is 69 against Memphis. Yeah. They've looked like a fantastic team.
Yes, they have.
I don't expect Golden State to have any real hiccups. Maybe if Steph Curry were to get injured, knock on wood, I'm sorry for saying that, Steph. If he were to get injured, yes, it would change the dynamic of what Golden State has as a whole product. However, they still just have a great team across the board. All right, well, we are going to jump to a break. When we come back, there are so much more to talk about in the sports world, college football playoffs, and so much more. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. This is the BG Sports Show. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
Sam, it is time to venture into the wild and wonderful world, not Harry Potter land, I'm sorry, we're not. We're not venturing over to Harry Potter. We are looking at the college football playoffs. The first official standings have come out by the College Football Committee. There's a little bit of outrage. There's a little bit of surprise.
It wouldn't be college football if there wasn't some drama involved.
It is like a good Spanish novela. There is always something happening where Ricky did this and Maria said that and ay caramba, Sam.
It's true.
What the heck is going on? Anyway, so you look at the top 4 teams here in the college football playoffs. Number 4 is Alabama, ? What the heck? One-loss team making it in there. Ohio State, number 3, they're 8-0. LSU, 7-0 at number 2. And the number 1 team is Clemson. Didn't think that was going to be a thing starting the beginning of the year. They're 8-0 right now.
But I definitely feel like they've earned it. So.
They have. What a great season they've had so far. Just rounding out the top 10 fast. Notre Dame comes in at 5, Baylor 6, Michigan State 7, TCU 8, Iowa at 9, and Florida at 10.
Go Iowa! Huh. I mean, just being a fan of the Big Ten, it's awesome to see. Well, Michigan State is kind of expected to be that high. They're traditionally a very good program.
They are,
but
yes.
The Iowa Hawkeyes making some noise, breaking into the top 10. Haven't lost a game yet.
They haven't, and I don't know if they will break into anything higher than the top 5 through 10 because they don't really play anybody. The only way for them to jump through would be to win the Big Ten title game against Ohio State.
Yep.
Which
could happen.
Could happen.
We'll see.
Maybe. I don't think so, but it could happen. It's college football, Sam.
It's true.
I mean, you could botch a punt and screw your whole season over just like that.
Careful.
I'm just saying. It's happened.
It's true.
It's very true. All right. Well, looking especially at this top 4, we spoke about this yesterday on the show with David Kenyon of Bleacher Report about how we believe that Ohio State could win it all.
Yep.
Regardless of their positioning right now. Although David said that he thinks this is the year that he does not believe in Ohio State, which is hard to say because traditionally Ohio State is such a great program. They won last year. They looked very convincing in all the games that they played last year. Now they've had a few issues with J.T. Barrett. They still have Braxton Miller. They still have Cardale Jones. They still have Ezekiel Elliott. You talk about just those 4 guys right there, Sam, and that
makes
be enough. NFL draft scouts just go crazy. They're like, oh, can't wait for these guys to get out.
Any one of them, yeah.
So, looking at this top 4 right now, do you have a possible dark horse? Because I get it, Ohio State, Alabama, they're traditional names, but out of these 4 spots right now, does one of these teams have an outside chance of actually winning it all, in your opinion?
Well, I guess I don't know if I'd really consider any of these 4 to be dark horses because they're in the top 4, so obviously the powers that be in the world of college football think that they're worthy enough for the title, but I do like what Clemson's doing. This is the 5th year in a row. Or actually, sorry, they're in their 6th year right now. In the last 5 years, their coach has won at least 10 games on average. Wow. He's won 50 games in 5 years, which is a huge just program-building machine over there in Clemson. But as far as the top 4, if the playoffs were to start right now, number 1 Clemson would take on number 4 Alabama, and then
big game.
LSU number 2 would take on Ohio State number 3. But I think next week, actually once we get through this weekend, tomorrow there's a big game. Number 2 LSU goes to number 4 Alabama.
That's huge.
That one will really either solidify somebody's spot in the top 4 or potentially bump somebody else out. I know there's a lot of talk right now too about is Alabama worthy of being in that 4th spot with 1 loss, considering they're over other undefeated teams such as number 6 Baylor, who won last night on the back of a freshman quarterback, and their offense has been lighting up the scoreboard.
That's true. I mean, yeah, you talk about lighting up the scoreboard. I mean, every single game this season, Sam, except for 2, they've scored over 55 points.
Which is crazy.
Yes, and even in those 2 games, there was 31 and 45 points that they scored, but they've hit 62, 66, 63, 70, 66, and 56.
Yeah.
What a great team.
What a great team. So, you have undefeated Baylor, you have undefeated Michigan State, you have undefeated TCU, and then you have undefeated Iowa, all still in the top 10, but behind Alabama. So, of course, there's going to be some talk about, is Alabama just getting that 4th spot because it's Alabama and it's Nick Saban?
That is a very good way to look at it.
Hard to know.
Well, and you look at it, too. I mean, I'm surprised I haven't heard too much controversy about who number 5 is, with Notre Dame being another 1-loss team.
Yep.
Still ahead of that Baylor, that Michigan State, and TCU and Iowa. Notre Dame, I mean, you look at that team, they don't play in a specific division. They're kind of all over the place.
They're that independent, which is tough, and it's hard, I feel. Notre Dame had their one chance a few years ago to really win that national title as an independent. And
yes,
I think until they join a conference, I don't know if they ever will, they're never going to get that respect because they kind of set their own schedule, which sometimes is hard, and you can get a little flack for that. But until you play in a power conference and show consistently that you can beat good teams year in and year out, they're never really going to get any higher than that top 5. And it's great to say, hey, well, you're top 5 in the country every year. That's awesome. But you always want more. You're kind of like the first team out. It's like, you go to the Olympics, you have your first through third. If you're fourth place, it's like, well, you were the fourth best person in the world at that.
Doesn't matter,
it's like,
didn't get a medal.
It's like, yeah, okay, no one's going to know who I am.
Exactly.
I feel that's kind of with Notre Dame. They're so good every year. You can't argue with that, but the committee just doesn't see them as a quality program as beating good teams.
Exactly. I mean, the one game that they lost here, they lost to Clemson. They lost to the number 1 team overall. They only lost by 2 points, 24-22, back on October the 3rd. Aside from that, though, I mean, LSU, their running game has been the reason that they've pounded through every team so far this year.
That's true.
Leonard, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Leonard Fournette.
Fournette, I think is how you say it. He's just played lights out this season.
Top Heisman candidate right now, in my opinion.
I would agree with you on that one. He's looked absolutely stellar from that perspective. So, looking on the outside, looking in, depending on what happens with LSU, Alabama, would we see Michigan State bump into the next grouping of 4 or Baylor jump forward? Or is the committee going to continue to tease TCU and say, hey, sure, come on in, but nah.
Nah. I think if LSU wins and hands Alabama their second loss, I think there needs to be some serious talk about, do they have a right? I don't think they have a right to be in that top 4 anymore.
I don't think so either. I mean, just because it's Alabama, that's great. Now that it's Alabama, but
2 losses.
A 2-loss team. I don't care if people are like, but they're a great 2-loss team. I don't care.
That's
not how it
two
works.
Losses.
Exactly. And I don't care that's Nick Saban. I don't care that it would drive reviews and ratings through the roof that you would get Alabama in that national championship game or even in the playoff games. Be fair. Execute the way you're supposed to and show consistency among all other teams around.
Yeah. Now, however, if Alabama wins, that's a win against a top 2 team in the country.
And then we will be stopping with arguments.
And then, then Alabama will have shown, hey, we can beat the second best team in the country. Yeah, it is in Alabama. But still, does that drop then LSU out? I'm not sure. And then you have really 2 undefeated teams that will be probably your 1 and your 2 with Clemson and Ohio State, depending on what happens with their game. Clemson hosts number 16 Florida State this weekend, and Ohio State hosts unranked Minnesota from the Big Ten, who Minnesota has shown to be stingy and to be able to hang with teams, but I don't think they're going to be able to finish against Ohio State. So then the conversation goes, well, Baylor, they're undefeated. Michigan State's undefeated. You have a lot of really, really good 1-loss teams, but you have to give credit where credit is due to teams that haven't lost the game yet.
Exactly, yeah. And like you mentioned, I mean, the not losing a game, I think the Final Four should consist of, if there are 4 undefeated teams, unless there's just a really, really good 1-loss team, there's no reason that Final Four should not be a grouping of 4 undefeated teams.
Yeah, and it's tough to, I guess I'm showing a little bit of bias now here for the Big Ten, but it's one of those things where apart from Ohio State, apart from potentially Michigan State, I feel even if Iowa runs the table,
they more than likely won't get in.
I think even if they win the Big Ten title and they beat Ohio State, I don't think they're going to get in.
No, and I think even if they were to get into that Final Four, that they would be knocked out and pretty much embarrassed.
I feel they would just get rocked. And that's not a knock on the Big Ten, but I think it's just the fact that the quality of the opponents that Iowa has beaten to this point is not equal or greater to the quality of opponents that Alabama, LSU, Clemson has played, and that's just a fact of the conference.
Exactly, and I say that's conference to conference, honestly, because honestly, there's no real reason that Iowa is ever going to make it into the Final Four until they actually start scheduling hard outside of conference games, or the Big Ten as a whole moves up. Because you look at the SEC, and I know this is always a consistent argument. Like, well, look at the SEC, so many good programs. Yes, there really is, but being able to find any sort of validity for Iowa, is going to be so hard to do.
It's true, and the only way they're ever going to really be able to schedule some of those tougher non-conference games is early in the year. You saw the Badgers play Alabama, and it's tough to play a top quality opponent that early in the season. And to really say, like the Badgers, they came in, hey, well, we lost to Alabama, in August or early September kind of a thing. But, like, again, it doesn't really mean anything. It hurts Alabama more if they lose than it hurts Wisconsin if they lose, because Alabama's expected to beat up on basically any Big Ten team except for really Ohio State.
I was going to say, I think except for Ohio State, it's kind of just the norm that if you don't beat a Big Ten team, then there's something wrong with your program.
Yeah, and that looks really good for the Big Ten, which is great. But like you said, if Iowa is ever going to break into the top 5, it's going to be tough unless they can really do.
A lot of teams would have to lose,
Yep.
and then they would also have to win this Big Ten title game as well.
So we'll see.
Exactly, yeah. We'll see what ends up happening with that one. All right, well, we are going to jump to a break. When we come back, Sam.
Hey.
Time for some running.
All right.
Sam is going to run.
Do it.
He's going to talk about running. He's got his Running 101 segment. Don't miss it. We'll be right back with more here on the BG Sports Show. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
All right, Sam, it is time for your Running 101 segment as we hear...
Is it Friday already?
It is.
Wow.
TGIF, Sam.
Man, this
TGIF.
week has flown by.
Thank God. I'm glad it flew by.
In a good way.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, Sam, before we get to your segment, though, we want to take a quick moment to thank one of our sponsors of the show. That would be Student Debt Center. You can help yourself and you can help out the BG Sports Show at the same time. How, you ask? Well, you can do it by dialing 855-401-3508. You can call now to inquire about your student loans being reduced. That number is 855-401-3508 to make one easy student loan payment. That number, once again, is 855-401-3508. You can do it to have a much lower payment based on your income and living circumstances rather than a fixed interest rate. Make sure you call now before Congress makes cuts to the national budget, which will nullify this free program. Remember, that number one more time is 855-401-3508. All right, Sam, it is time for your Running 101 segment.
It is time.
The floor is yours, sir.
All right. Wow, this is weird. Is this how you feel? Just all-powerful, having control of the conversation? This is great.
It is.
I like it.
It's a great feeling.
It's a good feeling. All right. This week, what I wanted to touch on is kind of as my season's starting to wrap up here in the next week or so is as a runner, you need to have really a long-term vision and a long-term plan for how you want to develop as a runner, especially as a high school or a collegiate runner. I guess this is more geared towards college or high school athletes instead of just your traditional runner, but this could apply to you as well. But I think I know a trap that a lot of athletes fall into is you want to see that success right away. You want to see those fast times. If you're a football player, you want to see those big games, those big stat lines. And that's the thing about running in cross country. There's no stat lines. There's no, box score. It's really just what was the time and where did you finish kind of a thing. So that was one of the things that I struggled with a little bit when I came into college, but I was very fortunate enough to be surrounded by a great coaching staff that said, here we preach consistency over season by season, long-term consistency. Yeah, we want to see you progress and get better over the course of a single season. We want to see you compete and run well at the end of a season, but you need to have, where do you want to be 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now? And one of the things that we talk about a lot in the program that I'm running a part of now at Wisconsin Lutheran is, how did you race, at certain courses over a previous season? Sometimes that's a better indicator of like, well, I really didn't run that well this week or as well as I really wanted to. But then you look back and say, hey, I ran X time on this same course last year and I beat X time by a minute, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, whatever. And it's really seeing that progression season by season and how, again, the pendulum kind of swings with running. You start, your summer generally is really good. You get into the season, you kind of fall off a little bit because you're really ramping up your workouts. You build, hold, take a little bit of a down, you build, a little down, build, and then you kind of tail off your training, which we talked about a couple weeks ago with tapering. But again, it ties into that being patient and being confident in the plan that you have set in place and not deviating from that and trusting that it will work long term. And I'll admit, it's a lot easier said than done. It's tough as a freshman to sit and look and say, hey, if I start putting in the work now, if I'm consistent, I might not run as well as I want to my freshman year or even my sophomore year, but man, by my senior year, I could qualify for some big meets, potentially nationals, things like that, and you can really see sometimes develop.
Absolutely, yeah. And you mentioned, from a broadcasting and media perspective as a whole, you look at cross country and not exactly a sport you hear a lot of commentating on, not a lot of national news coverage about. You hear about the marathons, the Boston Marathons, those long-distance runners, and it is one of those things where it's, last time he ran on this course, that's the kind of the stat that you can pull from, is saying, have they gotten faster? Have they progressed as a whole going forward? It sets you up as a runner to know, okay, this is what I need to do. And I think you can use that across other sports as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
For soccer players, it's like, well, I scored 10 goals last year. Okay, well, last time I played this team at their place, I scored 1 goal. So I want to build on that. I want to score 2 goals this time. You want to continue to look. You want to build on your success. And that is very much what cross country is, because some folks would be like, well, there's no touchdowns. There's no big plays.
There's no, because I know, especially for us, how we kind of make our living here is we look at box scores, we look at trends, we look at numbers, we look at kind of specific details like that you can really pull from and draw inferences from. And with running, it's hard sometimes because, like you said, a lot of it just goes on behind the scenes where it's like, yeah, I'm going to go do my workout today. And that's a big thing, too, is great that my coach does a wonderful job of keeping our workout numbers from season by season. And
that's huge.
There was actually a workout this season that I ran, and I guess based on what my expectations were of myself for that workout, I fell a little bit short, and I'm like, I was kind of beating myself up. Like, I had a good workout, and I'm like, man, I wish I could have done 2 more reps or dropped my time a little bit. And my coach is like, hey, it's like, keep your head up. I'm like, well, I'm trying. He's like, but you know what? He's like, here's what you ran on this workout last year, and I looked, and I had vastly improved.
Wow.
From the season before, and I'm like, you know what? Like, thank you. Like, thank you for keeping me, thinking big picture and things like that. And that's what it really comes down to, is not necessarily the day-by-day thing, but it's the season-by-season, the year-by-year progression.
You're right, and that's absolutely true. And I think running is a game similar to, I feel like, baseball at a little bit, where you have streaks, where you're going to have some races where you are running on top of the world, you feel great, and there are going to be some races where you're in a little bit of a slump, you're just not, whether you're distracted with outside things or your body's just not having it that day, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's kind of that hot and cold fixture of where when you're hot, you're hot. When you're cold, well, you're kind of cold, unfortunately.
It's true. And, like we've seen in a lot of other sporting worlds that, when a team gets hot, you see it. A team that hasn't been playing well suddenly catches fire, and they are rolling, and they're beating a lot of good teams. I guess there is some correlation to running like that. I mean, I guess all it really takes is a good mental breakthrough I think that's really what it comes down to more. And again, like with any other sport, when you really believe that you can do it and you almost are expecting it, that's when great things happen.
Exactly. Absolutely. I mean, you talk about great things, Sam. You can reference that between not only cross country, but you also can reference it to your fantasy football team.
Ooh, there we go.
As well. Your team is 7-1 so far this season, Sam. Looking like a very high quality team this year. So also thank you for offering your insights into the running world as you do here on Fridays. But let's take a look though at what is going on in the BG Sports Show Fantasy Football League. I'll be honest, I didn't realize that my guys didn't play very well last night. I had two guys in the game last night. I had A.J. Green and I had Mike Nugent. I got 7 points from Mike Nugent last night. I got 5 from A.J. Green. I'm leading 12 to 8. And I'm playing Connor Christensen this week. He had the Bengals defense last night. They got him 8 total points. It's a solid performance from one player, but I've already had 2 players play. I've had my quote-unquote best receiver play already.
Yeah.
And I'm already kind of in a hole, which is not a good sign going forward for me.
Yeah, I mean, you're still projected. You're within single digits right now via projection, but it's going to be tough. You're going to need some of your guys to really step up, and yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, my matchup between Connor, I mean, he has Phillip Rivers, I have Blake Bortles. The 2 running backs that he has Langford and he has Andrews from Chicago and Tennessee accordingly. So neither of those players are big breakout stars, but they will both be taking a majority of the carries for their respective teams, which gives them more opportunities to score. I have Doug Martin and Adrian Peterson, who on paper should provide a better option than what Connor's running backs are.
True.
However, that's why they play the game, as you say,
why
Sam.
they play the game.
Exactly. So on my bench, there's nobody that I'm really debating on going forward with. Let's look at your game. You take on Joe Wolfrath, our golf guy here on the BG Sports Show.
Yeah.
Neither of your guys played at all last night. How do you like this matchup going into this week?
I do. I really like it. I like it a lot. I don't want to ever get comfortable or complacent. I mean, I really can't control anything because I'm not playing.
Sure.
And I got, those guys still got to go out there and get the job done. And hopefully they're thinking, we got a guy back in Wisconsin, got to put up some big points for his fantasy team this weekend. But in all honesty, I do like my matchup right now. Joel's put together a good team, but I think a lot of his he has a lot of guys on bye this week.
That's going to be painful.
Which is going to hurt for him. So he's, in his defense, he is really just kind of scrapping a team together at this point of the year. And we've had some friendly banter back and forth and things like that. I don't want to get too confident too early, but even just simply based on projection, I'm projected to win by 26 points this week.
Yeah, that's a high number.
They're only projections. They're only projections, and at any given moment, guys could get hurt, guys could go down. But I'm excited for my newest addition to my roster of Rob Gronkowski heading into this weekend. So we'll see what happens.
How big has Stephon Diggs been for your fantasy team this season?
Clutch. He was a pickup on a week when I had a couple of my wideouts on bye, and I was scrolling through ESPN. I'm like, who's on the free agent market? I'm like, Stephon Diggs. I'm like, never heard of him before.
Yeah.
So I looked. I'm like, wow, he had didn't play early in the year, but he had a good breakout game. I'm like, it's Minnesota? I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually I talked to Connor Christensen. He's our big Minnesota fan, resident expert, and I said, who is this kid? I know you're going to give me a biased opinion, but is he good? He's like, no, seriously, like he's a great route runner. He's very fast. He can make a lot of plays with his feet after the catch.
That's huge.
And he, hands down, is Teddy's favorite target right now. So
which is good. You want that guy that on your fantasy team that's the quarterback's favorite target, which for me is not A.J. Green in Cincinnati right now.
Not currently.
All right, looking at some of the other games, we have Run from the One taking on Detroit area nerdy guys. Chris Blakely against Zach Poppenfu. Zach is 5-3. Chris is 4-4. Zach had Gary Barnage play last night. Chris had Giovanni Bernard play last night, so Chris currently leads 8-3 in that ball game. I'm always surprised at the amount of wide receivers that Zach has at his disposal. He has Julian Edelman, Eric Decker, Malcolm Floyd. He has Calvin Johnson, Jordan Matthews,
Marvin Jones.
He's got plenty of
lots of wideouts.
So if you're in our BG Sports Show Fantasy League, I would recommend that you go and
talk to Zach.
Talk to Zach if you need a wide receiver.
If you need a wide receiver, let him know.
Exactly. The Encyclopedia of Football, David Kenyon, he is the Fort Wayne Vandals. He plays Team Landvatter this week. He's projected to win by a hefty amount, but Megan needs to take 2 of her players off of bye. So we'll see if she gets that memo or not.
Yeah,
if not,
hopefully
David will go to his 6th consecutive win in a row. He's just been looking fantastic so far this year. Straight Out of ACLs takes on the Pallet Town Monsters. That would be Matt Evans taking on our producer, Danny Hoffenstein. Danny is favored to win by a lot. Holy cow.
Straight Out of ACLs needs to swap out 3 guys on bye. So
yeah.
He's still got Matt Forte plugged in. He's still got a Casey kicker in. He's got the Seahawks defense in. Yeah, he needs to swap out a few guys.
Yep, exactly. And then the one game that I'm sure everybody's eyes will be glued to will be Corey Plath taking on our former co-host Grant Coppersmith. The Cortland Prosecutors taking on the Hartford Whalers. Both of them had good games last night. Grant got 21 from Andy Dalton last night. Corey got 30 from 3 different players, though, but his big one was 23 points from Tyler Eifert last night. So
that was a good production out of his tight end. The rest of his team that played last night struggled quite a bit with Jeremy Hill and Travis Benjamin.
Yep, indeed. All right. Well, Sam, I know you got to zip off.
Skedaddle out of here.
You got to skadoosh out of here. So while you skadoosh, I'm going to jump on a plane and fly to England and chat with Simon Mitchell about the Champions League action. So
all right, have fun.
You enjoy your weekend, sir. I'll see you back here on Monday.
Bright and early.
All right. We will be right back with more here on the BG Sports Show. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. No more Sam. Sam had to duck out of the show as he does here on the last segment. But that does leave the door open for me to speak about just about anything I want on the show. We do want to take a quick moment, though, to remind all of you that you can listen to us live right here from 7 to 8 a.m. Central, live on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. Good morning to all of you watching us on Periscope. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Remember to let us know your thoughts about anything we talk about on the broadcast as well. You can also find us on demand on iHeartRadio, iTunes, and on Spreaker.com, and then on SportsRadioAmerica.com as well from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time. All right, well, we are going to be bringing in one of our good friends of the show all the way over from England, making his return back to the BG Sports Show. It is Simon Mitchell. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, good afternoon. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, sir. I'm excited to talk about some Champions League action with you. Kind of another crazy weekend, or another week in Champions League. Chelsea finally winning, Simon. Is Jose Mourinho finally not going to get fired, or is he still doomed to be out of there?
It was a terrible, terrible game of football for those people that actually sat down to watch it and didn't watch the Arsenal-Bayern Munich game in the UK. It was a terrible, terrible game of football. However, Willian, what a free kick!
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
I heard comparisons of Andre Pirlo with that free kick.
Christian Eriksen.
David Beckham, there you go. Yeah.
Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah, I know it was something else. And Willian has been Chelsea's standout player all season. He's a very, very good player. But will Jose Mourinho get sacked? I don't think so. There's been plenty of opportunities for him to go. Chelsea getting knocked out of the Football League Cup by Stoke. Still there. Losing at home on a regular basis, and he's still there. If he's going to go, the word on the street is that he's got this weekend's game to save him, which is against Stoke again in the league.
A possibility to make up for time lost then, huh?
Potentially. But don't forget, Chelsea fans, Dr. Spurs are coming to town at the end of November, and Chelsea always beat Tottenham.
So you're guaranteed at least one game then.
So if Jose Mourinho's still in charge by then, he'll start to pick it up then. But no, Have they turned a corner? Maybe, maybe not. It's put them in a much better position to qualify. They've gone second behind Porto, 2 points clear of Dynamo Kiev. So they win their last 2 games, they're going to qualify quite comfortably for the 16.
And you talk about FC Porto. They beat Maccabi Tel Aviv as well, 3-1 back on Wednesday. So Porto continuing to assert themselves in that group as one of the top teams, which we never really doubted. We thought it would be Chelsea and Porto that would likely sneak out. I never really thought that Kiev would find a way to get their way out. And Tel Aviv, let's be honest, they're just happy to be in the tournament. They're not really looking to challenge for a Champions League title at this point. But looking at some of the other action that took place in the Champions League, Simon, what were some other games that stood out to you as either some surprises or just some good matchups overall?
Well, let's keep in England. And much to my delight, being a Tottenham fan, Bayern Munich 5, Arsenal 1.
Oof, what a game that was.
As I decided to watch the Chelsea game because I thought it was going to be the corner that Chelsea will turn, but it wasn't. I've seen the highlights. Bayern Munich were absolutely terrific. They were amazing. They are, at the moment, probably the best team in Europe.
Okay. Even though they had that defeat against Arsenal a few weeks ago?
I think it was a wobble. I mean, Arsenal set up to absorb the pressure and then hit them on the break with pace. Because Bayern Munich don't have pace at the back. They're not a fast team. And they used Walcott and Oxlade-Chamberlain, Arsenal did, to basically play the long ball and run onto it. And that's how they won. They defended very, very well. The difference is they went to Munich without any pace. They've lost Oxlade-Chamberlain. They've lost Walcott, both to injury, both their fastest players. They've lost Aaron Ramsey.
It was a recipe for defeat from the beginning, basically.
Yeah, it was. Wenger set them up wrong. And there's Arsenal fans who say, "Who cares? Who cares? They're the best team in Europe. We played away. We were never going to win. What does it matter?" Well, it does matter. You've lost 5-1. There's no point in constantly finishing in 3rd or 4th in the Premier League and qualifying for the Champions League
if you're not going to do anything.
Going to do anything in the Champions League.
Exactly. I don't ever understand that reasoning behind Arsenal. I feel like they're okay with being decent. They're never going to be that team, I feel like, anymore until they actually make some either new acquisitions or Arsene Wenger decides to wake up and smell the roses and say, hey, this is an Arsenal team that we could maybe make a run at, but because, like you mentioned, he's completely fine with just finishing 3rd or 4th and grabbing a Champions League spot. And then once they get to the Champions League, it's like, oh, we made it to whatever, the quarterfinals. Woo! Like, at what point does that become not only annoying for the fans, but also as an organization saying, well, obviously we're just not good enough compared to the rest of the teams in Europe?
Well, I'm a little bit one-sided when it comes to Arsenal. I'm always erring on the negative.
Of course.
The problem with Arsenal is they have the business model of finish 4th, minimum, and qualify for the Champions League last 16, minimum. Now, by doing that, they earn the money, they pay off their lovely stadium that they've got in London, they can buy a big player like Alexis Sanchez, like Mesut Ozil.
Yep.
They can spend that money. But what's the point in having world-class superstars like Sanchez, like Ozil, if you're not going to win a major trophy, or at least challenge
exactly
a major trophy?
They've got all the right pieces right now to look like a good team, but as you mentioned, they don't really feel like it's almost like having a shiny new Lamborghini in the garage and only taking it out once a year. It's like, well, what are you going to do with it? Why would you spend all the money on it if you're not going to try to use it to its full potential?
No, I agree with you. It's a business model, and unfortunately, the Premier League has turned football clubs into money pits for investors.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I completely agree.
That's a different story. I can go on all day about the Premier League and the money involved in it.
Exactly. Well, let's stay in England again for a moment. Let's look at Wayne Rooney, the man that I'm sure was being sung all throughout Manchester with his beautiful header goal. United win their match. They're now top of their Group B with 7 points. They've got a 2-1-1 record. Have United found their faith back in Wayne Rooney again and in themselves?
Oh, Manchester United. Manchester United and Wayne Rooney are an interesting combination this season.
True.
Louis van Gaal last year made Wayne Rooney his captain. Roy Hodgson made him the captain of the English national team. And Manchester United this season and Wayne Rooney just have not clicked. They had 3 0-0s on the bounce before the game against CSKA Moscow. The game before the first 0-0 was again a 1-1 draw against CSKA Moscow. They've not really played very well. I watched them play Tottenham on the first game of the season, and they were very poor, but they were very solid. So, their performance wasn't very good. Wayne Rooney's, I've been saying this for a long time, he's the most overrated footballer ever. £300,000 a week, and he's never, ever really hit the heights that he should have done 12 years ago when he burst onto the scene playing for Everton.
Agreed. No, I completely understand that, and I share your argument.
He's never, ever, ever going to be considered in the likes of Ronaldo or Messi, or even in the next group down, the likes of Xavi's, Iniesta's at Barcelona, Xavi Alonso, Philip Lahm. He'll never be, even in the third tier of those players, he's never done anything like Steven Gerrard did, which was win the European Champions League single-handedly.
Yes.
Yes, he's won 2 Champions Leagues, but he's not done anything.
He's not been the catalyst behind that.
No. So Wayne Rooney and Manchester United, they'll stumble through the group. It's not a difficult group. Wolfsburg have stumbled, but then they did sell De Bruyne right at the end of August to Manchester City.
Yes.
Who Manchester City and De Bruyne has been fantastic.
He has, and that I was going to say.
Absolutely brilliant. Apart from when Tottenham beat Manchester City 4-1.
Shameless plug.
He has been tremendous.
He has. No, I completely agree with you on that one. I mean, even talking about Manchester City quickly here from England, they won 3-1 over Sevilla. Sevilla was one of my original picks to get out of that group. I thought, you know what, Sevilla might make a little bit of a shift, maybe upset Juventus, get out of that group. But right now, Sevilla as a whole hasn't played well in this group. Manchester City, they do a great job. They go out and score 3 goals. We've seen just continuously dominating performances from City, which has allowed them to assert themselves as one of the best teams in Europe right now.
They just need to kick on. I mean, they'll qualify for the last 16. They already have qualified for the last 16, and I think they've qualified top as well. Let me just have a look. No, not yet. They've got to play 2 more games, but they have qualified, City and Juventus. They'll get into the last 16. They need to get a semi-final minimum.
Yes. Agreed. No, I completely agree with you on that one.
They need a semi-final. They need to move on to that next level. They've spent so much money on so many players. And again, like Arsenal, they've never really kicked on in Europe.
And maybe that just might be their demise, I mean, in terms of the players that they bring in. It's like, it's great that they're bringing in the certain players that they do, but I feel like certain teams tailor their squads more to winning European competitions than their leagues. And then it just happens to fall into place that some players or some teams just happen to win their league as well. You look at Madrid and Barcelona, those guys, I feel like, just take turns every year winning La Liga. But at the end of the day, they're more concerned about, are we going to win the Champions League this year?
Well, Madrid and Barcelona, I mean, with respect to La Liga and the Bundesliga and Serie A and Liga and in France, those leagues all have 18 or 20 teams in them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
1 or 2 or possibly 3 teams that have got any real quality. And the difference in England is if you look at the Premier League, yes, maybe there's 4 teams that could win it, 5 teams potentially. Manchester City, Arsenal, Manchester United and Chelsea, you would say, are the 4 teams that could win it. But then behind that, you've got Tottenham, Liverpool, Everton, historically, Southampton as well. You've then got 4 other teams that want to get into that top 4 spot. And this goes back to what we were talking about, was the money involved in the game.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And when you've got 8 teams pushing for 4 spaces, you've then got behind them, you've got other teams, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Swansea, Stoke. You get another 4 solid teams who are pushing to try and get into that top 5 or 6. So it's a much more difficult league. So perhaps that is what is the problem. But the problem for England in Europe at the moment is something called the coefficient. Our teams aren't performing in Europe. And because they're not performing in Europe, there's a chance that Italy, who only get 3 Champions League spots, could overtake England. They'll get 4 spots that England currently have, and England will only get 3.
That would be, I feel like, it would be a bit of a shock because England has had those 4 Champions League spots for quite a long time, and I just don't think that Italy has the amount of teams that can really step up and produce to make all 4 of those spots worth their time. So, well, Simon, I hate to cut your time short, but I do got to let you go, unfortunately. But thank you so much for stopping by. You can find Simon on Twitter at Mitch Smash. Go follow him and get some of the latest insight and news, what's going on in the European soccer world. You can also check out, I'm sure he tweets about the San Diego Chargers as well. Not the greatest year so far from Philip Rivers, huh there, Simon?
We'll step away from the San Diego Chargers.
Fair enough.
It's teams I support. They start well and fall away.
Hey, you know what? As long as you support them, though, they love loyal fans like you.
Well, I love waking up on a Monday morning and seeing that the Chargers lost.
Well, it's a rebuilding year, you know? No, I'm kidding. All right, well, thank you, Simon. We appreciate your time on the show. We will be chatting with you again in the future, sir.
Cheers, Bax. Have a good day.
All right, have a good one. All right, well, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the BG Sports Show that has been brought to you by Sports Radio America and Student Debt Center of America as well. Special thanks to Sam Wallace for co-hosting, and for you just heard from our European soccer insider, Simon Mitchell, on the program as well. It's Friday. Everybody breathe. You made it so far. Just relax and know that Monday is right around the corner. Now, that's not what you want to think about. What you want to think about is that NFL football is on Sunday, so don't forget about that. Spend time with your families. Relax. Maybe make some chili. Fall is right around the corner as well, folks. Maybe get a Starbucks. Why not? I really need one. I'm super tired. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll see you all again on Monday. Have a good weekend, everybody.